Today on Rates and Barrels, Keith Law joins the show as we break down the recently completed MLB Draft. How did the White Sox do with the biggest draft pool in history?
And what about draft trends? We've been going away from high schoolers in the first round. Who bucked that trend? Who took 9 straight pitchers? Who took top pitchers in a pitching weak draft?
Plus a few takeaways from the futures game, because if you blinked, you may have missed it. Welcome to Rates and Barrels. It is Wednesday, July 15th. Derek Van Riper and Eno Saris joined today by Keith Law, senior baseball writer at The Athletic. It is officially Keith season. The MLB Draft is in the books. Yeah, Keith season. I'm a good marketing
Everything's
guy,
coming up
Keith.
Millhouse, yes.
A lot to talk about, though, with the draft and the futures game now in the books. And we're going to break down some of the surprising picks, some of the classes that you think kind of stood out above the pack. I think it helps, Keith, if you were in the White Sox position and you have the largest draft pool in league history, which tends to happen when you have the first overall pick, but they also stacked up a bunch of picks on top of that. And they drafted Roch Cholowsky out of UCLA with that first overall pick. What do you think about the group as a whole? How effectively did they leverage all of those picks and all of that pool money they had?
Yeah, I think they did a good job overall. And they traded for an extra pick on Friday. You guys know this, but for listeners who don't know, on Friday night, they traded Jacob Gonzalez to the Pirates, got the 34th overall pick, which boosted them to having the highest draft pool. And the word is that they did so specifically to take Landon Tomei, Jim's kid, because they didn't think he was going to get to their actual second pick at 41. White Sox, despite this huge draft pool, did not have any extra picks until they made that trade. It was just the first pick in the first round and then their regular picks on down.
Has the money come through on Tomei yet? Did they pay him more?
I have not seen that yet, but that is entirely possible. MLB doesn't have it listed. I have their draft tracker in front of me and they don't have it. But I was talking to a scouting director yesterday who mentioned a bunch of guys they've already signed, but it's not listed yet. So it's entirely possible he's already put pen to paper and we just haven't seen it yet. I think they really put the bulk of their chips, so to speak, on those first 3 picks. There are some other players they got who are very interesting, but Cholowsky, I think consensus 1-1. I've gone back and forth between him and Georgia Tech catcher Von Lackey, kind of all spring, but there's no argument against taking Cholowsky at 1, or excuse me, Roch Cholowsky. Clown show.
Tough scene out there for the commish. Hard to get the first overall pick.
First guy we've all known forever whose dad works in baseball. Now, don't prepare for that at all. Bring a clown, expect a circus. Anyway, Cholowsky, definite shortstop. He's got power. He's produced for 3 years at UCLA. Granted, the last 2 were in the Big Ten. That is not the best competition that you can face. There are some questions about he's going to need to make some little swing adjustments. And I do think him being able to consistently get to good velocity is kind of TBD. I think he's going to get there. I think he's going to end up a long time above average regular and make some all-star teams. And then they back that up with 2 of the better prep guys in the class. Tomei we discussed, and then Cole Prosek from Mississippi, one of the best just pure hit tools with potential for power in the in the high school group. Position is an open question, sort of one of those, we'll figure it out later. There was talk about trying to catch him. I don't think they're going to do that. They listed him as a second baseman, which to me is one of those, you just cross your fingers and see how it works out. Hopefully the bat is good enough that it just doesn't matter. And I know plenty of people who thought he was a borderline first round pick because of the bat alone, and we'll just worry about the position some other point. If we got to stick him in left and close our eyes, fine. He's going to hit.
The White Sox took Tomei's a high schooler. Their third pick was a high schooler. They didn't go high school in the first round, but in the first round, we got about 8 high schoolers. I'm just interested in this trend around high schoolers because they seem to be under threat in terms of what will happen going forward. But in general, high schoolers have been picked less and less often over time, if I'm correct. And is that just an arm thing? Because high school arms are identified as maybe one of the riskier picks in the draft. And did that trend continue, or was it bucked a little bit? How does this year's draft compare when it comes to high schoolers?
Well, it's because this year's high school group was one of the weakest I've ever covered. It made it sort of, I think, worse than normal. We've seen a trend towards taking those high school pitchers beyond the first round, going back to 2019 or so. And that's the year Quinn Priester was the first high school pitcher taken. And I think at that point, it was the latest we'd ever seen the first high school pitcher selected. That was 17th or so. And this year, I think we got to 16th. So that's kind of where it is. Their teams, particularly in the top half, are less inclined to take high school pitchers. Teams are fine taking those guys and paying them first round money. They just don't want to do so with their first selection because they see the risk. And I think there's the opportunity cost of your first pick. You could take that guy, or you could take maybe a lower ceiling but safer high school bat or particularly a college player. But also I think there's the optics. Nobody wants their first round pick to just zero out, to just never make the majors because he blows out or he stinks or some combination of the two. And there's just more risk of that with the high school pitchers. But,
so that's how you get the Diamondbacks taking Helfrich.
Yeah.
Taking a high floor catcher without much ceiling right ahead of the first high school pitcher.
Yeah. And Helfrich a year ago, if you told me he was a first rounder, it would have been laughable. He was one of the bigger swing and miss guys, prospect or not, anywhere in Division I. And you could beat him in the zone really easily. And he made some adjustments, changed to where his feet are, he changed his swing path a little bit to just get to more contact. Obviously, somebody said to him, you want to be a high draft pick? You got to put the ball in play a lot more. You can't be missing, even in the SEC, right? You cannot be missing it, especially stuff in the zone at these high rates. And so now you've got a guy whose defense alone might be enough to carry him to the big leagues, who's putting the ball in play a good amount and who's got some power. That might make you a regular. It's hard to see a path where Helfrich really becomes an all-star, but how could you argue with them if they say, we think we got an everyday catcher? If he's never more than that, but he's a solid everyday catcher, those guys are worth a lot of money. Like, to me, that is completely logical versus the chance of Rojas maybe being a 3, or maybe if everything works out, he's a number 2 starter, but there's just, and I like Gio Rojas, the lefty who went one pick afterwards, but there's just, the downside is it's zero, right? It's just
much bigger bust rate. Yeah.
He gets hurt, right? They all get hurt. Even the guys, I always go back to Braxton Garrett, who's one of the, he didn't throw hard. He didn't seem to be exerting much effort. The delivery was great.
Command.
Threw a ton of strikes. Yes. The game I saw him in high school, he had more strikeouts than called balls in the game. And he blew out, and then he came back with just a little bit less velocity, and he's been kind of an up and down guy. So it sort of threw my hands up after that one. I'm like, well, if that guy got hurt, if he blew out his elbow, then clearly I have no idea. They're just all going to get hurt.
Just elbows, just the way they work, unfortunately.
Yes. We'd be so much better off without elbows.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine how much better our arms would function with no elbow?
Elbow.
Look ridiculous.
Just
all the R.A.
Tyrannosaurus arms. Yes. Yes. R.A. Dickey was ahead of the curve, right?
Maybe
UCLs
that's
are
what
for
we've missed.
suckers.
Stop fixing the UCL. Just remove it completely, right? We should sit down with some surgeons and talk through this. I think we're onto something here that might actually save all the elbow injuries we're seeing in baseball. Keith, we saw the Rays with a rare early pick. The last time they were in the top 5 was 2017. That was the Brendan McKay draft. I took him at 4 that year. They went ahead and took Grady Emerson at 2. It's not the direction you would have gone based on the rankings you put out and some of the write-ups you've had, but that's sort of par for the course for the Rays. Even with an early pick, they just seem like a team that has their own way of going about things. What is it about Emerson that you think will ultimately, at least give him the kind of floor that teams want when they're drafting that high, and what kind of pushed him behind the likes of Von Lackey and Tyler Bell, who you had ranked slightly ahead of him?
Yeah, and I will say, people I know in the industry, multiple people have said to me the Rays crushed it. They love the Rays draft. So I'm a little lower than the consensus. Part of it is, I see in Emerson a very good high school hitter. I don't know how good. And he's not a runner. It's not big power. I think he stays at shortstop. I don't think he's ever going to be a plus or better defender at shortstop. He better freaking hit. Right? Maybe he will. He was basically the best, or one of the very best hitters at all the showcases last summer and last fall where he's facing better pitching. But I saw him briefly this spring and only got a couple swings out of him because he was playing Little Sisters of the Poor in this very low level. Like, he transferred from his regular high school, a large high school that played a higher level of competition, to a small religious school so he could play under Rusty Greer. That part's great. But he didn't face much good pitching this spring. So to me, it's like, well, yeah, you went and saw him go like 5 for 4. Okay, cool. That's not the kind of pitching he's ever going to see again. And so to me, Lackey, and Bell, there's just so much more certainty. ACC and SEC players who've produced against the best pitching in the country, who are more physically developed, who have, I think, a little bit of a broader base of tools. I've said in a couple of write-ups, they're not similar looking players at all, but the Grady Emerson concept, right, is you think you're getting McGonagall, right? You think you're getting a guy who's just going to hit so well from day one with hard enough contact that you'll figure everything else out later, right? We don't care if he's really a shortstop. If he moves to second base, fine. We don't care that he can't run. He's going to produce so much with his bat. McGonagall has. That's completely worked out. Of course, McGonagall wasn't even the Tigers' first pick that year. That was Max Clark. They took McGonagall with a comp pick. And so I look at Emerson and say, wow, people in general, not just the Rays, clearly have a higher degree of confidence in his hit tool than I can offer. Now, right, I saw him once. I'm also not really a scout. I just play one on TV. So I am more than willing to defer to them. I just really love Von Lackey. I mean, that guy, man, if he stays behind the plate and what we saw from him this year holds up, because he really only produced like this for 1 year. Like, that's a superstar. That is your long-term catcher who makes a bunch of all-star teams and who's athletic and fields well, receives well, blocks well, and hits for power. Like, those guys are really hard to find. And I know the Twins were ecstatic that he got to the third pick.
The Rays, by the way, 7 out of their first 10 picks, high schoolers.
They went for it, which, right, there's a whole logic to that. If the whole industry is saying go college, fine. We're just going to pick off a bunch of the high school kids. And I liked the second pick, who they took 33rd overall, Taj Marchand from James Island, South Carolina, who I did see. The swing is ugly, but he hits. He's got bat-to-ball skills, and he got a good bit stronger this year, so he's driving the ball to all fields now. I also got very lucky the game I saw him. He starts out at shortstop, his normal position. Their third baseman got hurt, so they slid him over to third and put in an underclassman at short, and he played the hell out of third base. Well, since scouts had been telling me since last year he's not going to stay at shortstop, well, I got to see him at a position he might actually play in pro ball, and hey, what if it turns out he's really good there? Which is, obviously a lot of shortstops don't stay at the position, but you're crossing your fingers they're going to move to second or move to third and actually be good. Well, I saw him and it's, okay, actually this guy looks really like a natural at third base. Great hands, plenty of arm. So if that's the idea, and obviously with Emerson, you leave Emerson at short, maybe you just slide Marchand to third and just tell the two of them, you're going to move up together like Clark and McGonagall did most of the way. You're the left side of the infield at Charleston to start next year, and we'll just move you up.
Yeah. It's a really interesting point you make about the Rays are sort of going for it and being a little bit different with this sort of theme we've got so far. I think about one of the better pitching staffs I built in fantasy baseball this year. I decided to, instead of working with a consensus and using 3 or 4 different inputs and kind of blending a projection, I used one input and took a viewpoint. I was like, this is either going to work or it's not. And I'd rather sort of take a big swing than sort of blend a consensus together. I've heard that maybe the teams like the Blue Jays might work on like extreme consensus where they get a lot of input from a lot of different places and like really try to find the middle road from all their different voices. So maybe the Rays just have some really strong voices or they just, if someone goes to the table for a player, they're just like, all right, we're going to take that player, So I like that they took a chance. On the other hand, I'd heard that this draft was a little bit weak on pitching just overall. And I don't know, A, is that true? And then B, if that is true, did the Giants do well to cover a need and take the best pitchers out of a weak pitching draft? Or did they look too heavily to their need and take pitchers in a pitching weak draft? And how did you feel about the 2 pitchers in the first round for the Giants?
Yeah, I mean, their whole draft was like 4 guys. I mean, they took some other guys who were something, but they put nearly all of their, I'm going to assume almost all of their Giant bonus pool is in those first 4 names. 3 of them were pitchers. I mean, the first pick was Jackson Flora, consensus best college pitcher in the draft. Years of performance, out-pitch changeup, spins a pretty good breaking ball. A lot of questions about the fastball quality. It's 96 to 100. It's low vert. It's pretty straight. Is he going to get hit harder in the zone, facing better hitters? He wasn't in the SEC. He wasn't in the ACC or the Big 12. So I get all of that. Also, and I mean, I'm kind of preaching the choir here, right? teams can work with that, right? You have arm strength. What if we try a two-seamer, which as far as I know, he's never really tried in games. Maybe he's messed around with one on the side.
If you don't have a good fastball, have three is basically the current philosophy.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that? Well, Cam Schlittler has a good fastball, but he has three. So also, right? Cut it, sink it. Just try different grips. Like there's a lot of things you can do. If you have pure arm strength and we've already got one swing and miss pitch in the bank in the changeup, great. And I like the delivery, and he throws a ton of strikes. Like, that was pretty easy for me. If the three hitters, because I was a very high guy on Tyler Bell, who, for folks who don't know, he hurt his shoulder the first weekend of the season, missed about a month, maybe not even quite a month, came back and played through it. It's a non-throwing shoulder, so he still played shortstop. Doctors told him, you're not going to make it any worse. He's going to have surgery. My opinion is this guy raked playing with one functioning arm. That's pretty good. What can he do with two? So, but, obviously there was risk involved and teams didn't want to take that. He ended up going 10th to the Rockies. So otherwise, the top three guys went 1, 2, 3. So the Giants are sitting there. It's like, well, we can reach down a little bit, maybe for another position player, or just take probably the best guy available, hitter or pitcher, who happens to fit an organizational need and is a local kid. That doesn't hurt either. And so to get, I think, a pretty high probability college arm there, open them up to go take 2 high school pitchers with the next 2 picks. And both are pretty good kind of touch and feel guys. Carson Bowman's the lefty who they took at 29, the pick they got in the Patrick Bailey trade. Probably a little more upside. Caden Wachter, Doug Wachter's kid. I'm here to make everybody feel old. Was their second round pick and is more low slot, low release height, huge vert on the fastball. Throws a lot of strikes. Maybe not truly a swing and miss pitch there, but a little bit more of a sort of present package than you typically see in a high schooler. Like you send this guy out to low A and he's going to be fine. Obviously you hope there are things you can develop, but you're not saying, well, we got to find him a breaking ball. Oh, we got to develop something for lefties. He's already in pretty good shape with that.
The pitching didn't stop there. I mean, they took, it looks like 4, 5, 6, 7 of their first 9.
Yes.
7 of the first 10. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah,
of
they
pitching.
took this kid, Nachtsheim, who at McNeese State in the 6th round, who's a senior, but he was like he might have been like 5th in the end. He ranked very high in Division I in strikeouts, and he's basically all doing it with one of those invisible fastballs. It's not particularly hard, but it missed a disproportionate number of bats. Is that really going to work? Like I spoke to analysts who said when we model it by pitch shapes, it's not really that kind of fastball. It's pretty good, and he was facing lousy competition. In the 6th round, take that guy all day, right? Just see what happens. So they did a lot of things I liked. The one pick I picked on, they took Peyton Bonds. That's Barry's nephew. Like, really? Could anybody else have taken that guy? I'm just, right? Yankees took Andy Pettit's kid. By value for where they took him, it was fine. Could anyone else have taken that kid? I don't think it's good for the kid, right? There's just going to be more eyes on these guys now because, I mean, you could say this a little bit with Landon Tomey, but Jim Tomey was, right, he's played all over. It's a little bit less. Like Barry freaking Bonds, right? That's at least it's not his kid, it's his nephew, but still. And Peyton Bonds hits the ball extremely hard. People are going to be expecting him to go out and hit 25, 30 bombs next year. I'm like, man, if he went to play for like the Rockies, the Marlins.
Just be easier.
Right? Nobody would be paying that much attention to him.
How did he end up playing college ball at Rutgers? What's the story there?
I don't know if he's from there originally. Like, I actually never saw him because he got hurt. He missed half the season, too. That was the other thing. So I was like, well, of course I'll go see him. Because even if he stinks, which he does not, to be clear, right, that's a story, right? I can drive 2 hours. Also, there's a Carvel right near the campus in Rutgers. We don't have Carvel down here, but they do up there. And that's more than enough. Absolutely. So I had it all set up, and then he got hurt and missed literally a month plus to end the season. So I never saw it. But yeah, Rutgers, they usually get pretty good local guys. I give them credit. I think moving to the Big Ten, which is not a major baseball conference, but does raise their profile a little bit. They have done a pretty good job of getting better prospects, especially the local kids. And, they've had a handful of guys picked in the top 3 rounds in the last 10 years, including the kid who just got hurt in the A system. Ryan Lasko at that bad collision a couple weeks ago. He was a 2nd rounder out of Rutgers and pretty talented. So they're low-key a pretty good program, especially for the Northeast, where we don't have a lot of great college programs. They're one of the better ones.
We are going to hit a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dig into the first draft class for this new Rockies front office, which featured some great value with that 10th overall pick. Welcome back to Rates and Barrels. Keith, I wanted to ask you about the Rockies draft. It's the first draft class for Paul DePodesta, Josh Burns, and company, and they got a guy you really liked to fall all the way to 10 in Tyler Bell. Reading your write-up on Bell, it reminded me of some things that you wrote about J.J. Weatherholt, mostly in that he could have been a 1-1 had he been healthy during his final season in college. So in my fantasy brain, I'm like, Tyler Bell, like a little bit of a sleeper, and that he landed in Colorado, that's going to like blow the cover off that instantly. But what did you think about this class overall? And then thinking about Bell and his proximity to the big leagues, like, is he actually a guy that could move reasonably fast?
Yes, I should say I love their draft. Like multiple guys they got who were just great value for where they picked them. And I like what they did with the class overall. I think Bell could move quickly once he recovers, right? If that's correct, what I heard that he's going to have shoulder surgery. So we won't see him this year. I don't know if that means he's delayed to start next year. Obviously, I hope not. But the bat is not far. Like that's a guy in a different world where he doesn't have to have the surgery. He's starting next year in AA for me. And particularly in the Rockies system where they've just got hitters parks everywhere, Hartford is the place to go, right? That's the one reasonably neutral place to send a hitter or a pitcher, obviously. But you can get a better read on those guys. Spokane's a bit of a hitter's park. And then obviously Albuquerque is bonkers. So I'm very big on having guys go to Hartford for a while because it's the one really true read we're going to get on their hitting ability. We'll see if I think he's going to stick at shortstop. We'll see how that ends up. Also, they have a really good defender at shortstop right now, so maybe they choose to move Bell at some point later on for just to maximize total defense. But then they also got one of the best pitchers in the draft class, Logan Redeman out of UCLA, who I mean, this is just an opinion, but I think he was going to go in the top 10 until he got hurt. But he never had surgery, came back and threw at the combine, proof of life, at least. Great command guy. And I just think that is kind of an underrated thing when we're all chasing velocity and pitch shapes. And, not that those things aren't important, but I think we have sort of underweighted guys who can really pitch and throw strikes and particularly throw to the edges of the strike zone. And Redeman was doing that. He punched out 18 against Rutgers, actually, in one of his very last starts. It was his last or second start before he got hurt. And then obviously that knocked him all the way down to the second round. They get those two guys and I wasn't a big Daniel Jackson fan, but the guy won the Golden Spikes Award. He had 31 bombs. It's real power. I don't think he's a catcher. I think you just tell him, we're going to move you to first base. Just go bang. Just go hit. And he's got enough holes in his approach that there's plenty to still work on, but at least take catching off of his plate and say, we are just going to develop you as a hitter. Because obviously if he gets to that power in games, and then you combine that with Coors Field, right? You're talking 30, 35 homers a year.
And then they took 9 straight pitchers.
Starting with Davis. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
Is that rare?
What I noticed, because now I just finished this morning. I've gone through all 30 draft classes. Lots of teams, 6 through 10, rounds 6 through 10, just take college pitchers. It's just college relievers, back-end college starters. It's one pitch we like. One specific thing that the model liked or a specific scout liked or something where they're signable. A lot of them are seniors, a lot of them are juniors, but they're low ceiling. They're not going to go back to school and become second, first round picks next year. You can never have enough pitching, right? I think that just becomes the thing. Plus the hitters still the college hitters still on the board at that point are probably not that good. And you're not going to get a high schooler to sign typically in the 7th or 8th round unless you've saved money earlier that you can reallocate to
because of NIL money a little bit. I mean, the slot bonuses for their 7th, 8th, and 9th pitchers there was $200,000. Like, if you're a good high schooler, you might say I can at least make 50 to 100,000. I don't know what the numbers are, but like I can make a lot of that in NIL, and this is not a really good pick for me. Like I'm not valued high enough.
Value of the scholarship. Obviously you're going to school. The value of NIL money, whatever you're getting. And then if you believe you've got a chance to get better in 2 or 3 years in college, get stronger. I mean, for a lot of these kids, they need to go there and just like grow up, just go mature. I do think there is value in that, especially if you're going to a program that has some history of good pitcher development. Like if you're committed to Wake Forest and you're a pitcher of some promise, I'm looking for 7 figures easily, because Wake Forest has such a great track record. They've got one of the best pitching labs in college baseball, and they've got a great track record of developing guys. So yeah, I do think that drives teams. They popped some of those high school kids 11 to 20 because if they don't sign, it doesn't affect your bonus pool. So you saw a lot more of those. You see very few high school guys taken 6 to 10 unless they weren't committed to a major program.
You described their draft perfectly. 6 through 12, all college pitchers. And then right after that, 6 through 12, they take some high schoolers, high school seniors with no slot money.
Well, they took, so their 18th rounder, Blake Bowen, was like 50th on my board. Obviously, I doubt he would be signing for less than $2 million. If something goes wrong with one of those early picks, they flunk a physical or otherwise can't sign, don't sign. Rockies choose not to sign.
We could just give him $2 million, maybe.
Yes. Yep.
Whoa.
Orioles did that a couple years ago. They failed to sign their 3rd round pick. They flunked him on his physical and gave like 1.7 or something, all the money that was supposed to go to that guy, to a kid named Carter Young, who was a disaster right away. I actually don't know if he's even still in their system. The guy they declined to sign was Nolan McLean, who was drafted a year later by the Mets. And that's
and I guess also with their like 9 straight pitchers, a lot of those guys have slot money. So, they could be saying, a couple of these guys could fail. We could put them
right this together. Way. If there's I'm not going to go into like all of the rules about how that stuff gets reallocated and when you can and when you can't. But basically, if something like that happens, you got to have a contingency plan somewhere in 11 to 20 to give that money to. And so most teams, not every team does it, but you should. Most teams have one of those guys where it's like, probably unsignable high school kid, but if something goes wrong, or if for whatever reason the kid comes back at the end of the summer and says, I'll take $500,000. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe we scrounge that together. Maybe we decide it's worth paying a little bit of a penalty to go sign that kid afterwards. So you should always just take one of those guys afterwards, in addition to all the kind of like organizational players to just fill out a roster that teams typically take with the majority of the 11 to 20 picks.
I wanted to ask you, as you kind of went through all of these boards, whose drafts surprised you in a good way? Like, what were some of the more over expectation quality wise groups? And the A's I saw in one of your write-ups, 4 from your top 48 overall, which seems like a massive collection of talent in one class.
Yep. Loved their draft. And I haven't loved an A's draft like this in a long time. They just absolutely crushed it. There's risk with all of these guys, but they went for a little more upside. I think it was a good balance within individual picks and then within the draft of a whole, balancing some of that risk and reward. They got this kid, Roman Martin, in the 4th round, UCLA third baseman. And the quote, 2 different scouts said this to me, Roch Cholowsky isn't even the best shortstop on the left side of the UCLA infield. Because Roman Martin got moved to 3rd because Cholowsky is obviously the best prospect, was the best prospect in the draft, best player on UCLA, et cetera. So, of course, they moved the other kid. But Martin's a better defensive shortstop. And he can hit, and he hits it harder than you think. He's a little passive at the plate. And obviously, I think his value got dinged just because he didn't play shortstop. But he was a guy in high school. Everybody knows and remembers. We've seen him play shortstop before. Like, he's really good. That guy getting to the 4th round absolutely stunned me. Mason Edwards, the 2nd rounder, is the classic. Like, I don't know how that guy's not a guardian at this point. Elite changeup, great breaking ball, needs to throw harder. I mean, right? How many times has Cleveland taken that guy? Okay, usually they get that guy in the 4th or 5th round, right? And they just put him through the machine, and he comes out.
You tell me he has good command too?
I actually think he has better command than the numbers say, but because the fastball is low velocity and not good quality, he pitches out, right? It's chase. Try to get ahead, and then I'm just going to spin 4 breaking balls at you and get you to chase. And he did. He led Division I in strikeouts by a mile. Like, he had 30 more than anybody else because the secondary stuff is so good. If that kid gets to just average velocity, he's going to be outstanding. And again, 2nd round, 47th pick in the draft, you get the D1 strikeout leader who has legit stuff. Right? I could make statistical arguments, sort of evidence-based arguments, and more like philosophical arguments why I like pretty much every one of these picks. The 1st rounder will be the fascinating one, Drew Burress, who is a very fun-sized outfielder from Georgia Tech. It's kind of an uphill swing, but he hits it really hard. There's definitely power there. We'll see if he stays in center. We'll see what he does when he starts facing consistently good stuff, good velocity on a nightly basis. If he passes that test, which could happen as soon as high A, depending just on who he ends up facing, we'll get a pretty quick read of, is this guy maybe an all-star or is he maybe just a very good regular? But
he's a high energy guy, right? I remember Georgia Tech came to town. We watched them, and it seemed like he was a little bit of the straw that stirs the drink, like for that team.
%. Oh yeah. He's got big, small guy energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be like that. And people are like, well, it's Corbin Carroll. I mean, I like Drew Burress. Corbin Carroll, first of all, he's left-handed. And second, Corbin Carroll is, right, he is another level entirely of just athlete. If Drew Burress is 80% of Corbin Carroll, you're thrilled.
Yeah, that's still a very good major leaguer if it pans out that way. I think the big question I have with the A's, you bring more quality into the organization on the pitching front, but can you refine those pitchers and make them effective at least one more year still in West Sacramento before they move into the ballpark in Vegas? We don't know how exactly that ballpark's going to play.
Vegas has an altitude too, so like Vegas will affect them even if it's not as bad as Coors. It'll still.
I'd be surprised if it's not at least slightly hitter friendly, assuming climate control, humidor, all the factors they can have, it's still probably going to be hitter friendly, if not one of the more hitter friendly environments. But regardless, I think the current question about the A's is their ability to finish pitching prospects, to make them actually good, effective pitchers at the big league level. And for a long time, I think we could sort of get a little bit lost in the effects of the Coliseum and what that could do to kind of mask some of the flaws of their pitchers. So to me, that's a huge question mark for them. Can they take a guy like Edwards and make the fastball better? Can they take anybody that they're drafting and actually make them a lot better than they were when they brought them into the system?
I do think for a long time they did what you just said, right? They would find pitchers who maybe weren't good fits elsewhere, but would be good fits for the Coliseum. Right? You had all that foul territory and the ball didn't carry as well. Fly ball pitchers did really well there. A lot of guys who I was like, that guy can't start, that guy can't start, that guy. They would go to Oakland and the A's would get 2 good years out of them in the rotation because they just found the guys who fit their environment. I mean, you started to get into the straight. That AAA ballpark in Vegas, a crazy hitters environment.
But I guess someone told me, Zach Geloff told me that one is another 1,000 feet above where the stadium's going to be.
That's interesting.
So that it's uphill from basically the strip. So, but still, the strip, I think it's still like 2,000, 2,500 elevation. I mean, that it'll still be the second most elevated park in baseball.
Yeah, not great, right? Assuming they ever build it. I agree. I think it's going to be a hitter's park, and I do think it's going to mean a change in approach, right? You can't develop hitters that same way. You're not looking for. Yeah, I mean, they were just hunting, right? I'm not going to name the book or the movie, but right, they were looking for inefficiencies in the market, and those sort of fly ball oriented strike throwing pitchers, you might get a lot of foul pop ups. That was an inefficiency, and it worked particularly well in their ballpark. It's not going to work in the new place. I also know that they've changed a lot of their philosophy there, even though a lot of the people at the top are the same, but they're looking for different things now, looking for different things in the draft, looking for different things in trade, trying to get a different caliber of player and recognizing they can't just cobble together a pitching staff out of kind of spare parts, which they have been able to do previously because of the ballpark. And I do think some of these other guys...
I'm surprised that we saw an organization take 9 straight pitchers and it wasn't the A's actually, because there's a ton of agita in that front office about having enough pitching.
Yes.
What Sacramento, what Vegas is going to do their pitching. So.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, they took guys with different characteristics. The third pick, Gabe Gackle, lost his spot in the Arkansas rotation. Arkansas had other arms that didn't help. But Gackle's like a project. He's a college arm, but he throws really hard. He can spin it, and everything else is a work in progress. And that's a fine spot where they took him a little bit higher than I had him ranked. But I would also say that is the kind of guy that you haven't taken a lot of shots at. Higher ceiling, higher risk. You're handing him to player development and saying, hey, you got to finish this. This guy is not close to a finished product. He's not a AA starter at this point, but you could easily see a path for him to get there.
As you were kind of looking at the top of this board, who looks like they've got faster paths to contribute at the big league level based on A, their own polish, but B, also the organizational needs from the team that drafted them?
The two guys who went 5-6, Derek Curiel to the Pirates, Zion Rose for the Royals, both college outfielders, major conference, Curiel at LSU, Zion Rose at Louisville, both super advanced hitters, advanced approach, a lot of hard contact, low whiff rates, ability to adjust to different pitch types, hit extremely well against the best pitching possible. Curiel done it for 2 years at LSU. He was a California high school kid. I actually saw him in high school and was like, that's a great swing. I don't know if he's ever going to be strong enough. And then he goes and hits for 2 years at LSU. So I don't know anything, obviously. That's not news. It's just, I love the narrative of Rose. And I understand you don't draft a narrative, you draft a player. But Rose rolls his ankle the first weekend of the season, misses like a month, close to a month. So almost his entire season was almost entirely against ACC competition. And he hit .410 and got on base and hit for power and like against only good, like he didn't get to fatten up in the early part of the season.
At all early on.
Yeah, right. You know what, the early season, right? We're playing like Pencil State, and you know, and I'm not going to pick on certain players. There's actually I can say one because I've written this before. Justin LeBron was the first round pick of the. I want to make sure I'm actually saying it correctly. The Reds. Yes, I was going to. I keep wanting to say the Astros because that's where I had him in a mock, and I'm like, I know that's not right, and my mocks are definitely not true.
He went one pick after the Astros.
Yes,
so
he did. Yeah, which is what threw me there. Reds took LeBron. At 18, perfectly reasonable selection. But LeBron did that, right? He padded early against non-conference competition. Then he goes in the SEC, best pitching in the country, and struggles. Hit like 228 and everything else down the line was worse within SEC play. But Rose only did it against good competition. Both those guys can hit. Those are the types of guys you draft and you think they could start next year in Double A and it's not going to be a reach like Weatherholt. With Rose, it's going to be figuring out what is the ideal position for him on defense. He runs well. He's not a great defensive outfielder. Does he need, is it a coaching thing or is he just going to be one of those where it's never going to match, right? The speed and the, reads and routes are never going to match. With Curiel, I think he's a left fielder in the end, but if they want to try him in center, give him some run there, okay. They could also sometimes, the Pirates have the luxury, send him to Greensboro and let him just hit 10 homers in April next year because that's a launching pad. If they want to do that, fine. I don't think anybody's dying to play in Altoona.
But both teams could use a center fielder.
Yep. And soon. And the rumors leading up to the draft for the Royals were that they wanted a college guy at 6 because they need something sooner, even though Brian Bridges, scouting director, generally prefers high schoolers because he wants big upside, big tools. 2 years ago, he took Jack Cavallino in the first round, but that guy has outsized power, right? So that kind of made sense. But then his best picks, his kind of biggest picks other than that have all been high school guys. But here, I loved what the Royals ended up doing if you look at the portfolio of draft picks as a whole, where they got some probability there, but then still went and took some high school guys with some upside after that. So it's sort of like one in the bag that you feel really good. Zion Rose is going to be a big leaguer in a year and a half. Then we can go draft a little bit more typically, like taking high risk, high reward high school arm with their second round pick, Jack Slightum.
Yeah, I think that approach actually does make a lot of sense. You have pressure, I think, in Kansas City right now. The step back they've taken at the major league level this year, some of that fueled by injuries, probably has made that front office kind of look inward and say, hey, we got to find more major league talent fast. It's not going to come all via free agency. We're not going to have enough stuff to trade to fill our needs either. So this is a critically important draft. And just kind of based on that balance and some of your comments, it seems like they did pretty well, all things considered.
Yeah, I really like their draft also. And that's one where I'll say I heard some mixed things from other people because they were like, this isn't a typical Brian Bridges draft. Their scouting director typically goes for more upside. It's definitely more college oriented. I love their draft. I thought it was awesome. Their second pick was Taylor Rabe, pitcher of Mississippi, who was one of the kind of the big risers late in the year, absolutely dominant for them at the end of the season. It is clearly a big league starter. Like a lot of these guys, he just needs a better pitch for lefties. You're going to see that like everywhere in my write-ups of players. So many teams, so many colleges now. It's just everybody's fastball and 2 or 3 breaking balls. I'm like, how about what? Just that, right? Can we just get for the other side? And then I look and it's like, oh, he's got a big platoon split. Gee, I wonder why, right? This is not all that complicated. But also teams can do, right? We've got so many varieties. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm stepping on Eno's toes here again, but like different grips, different varieties of changeups and splits. And even sometimes it's a cutter, right? Just something for that. And this guy's going to zip to the big leagues. And Rabe is like that as well. And they did take a couple of shots on high school guys. I mentioned Slighton was the second rounder, and Dominic Batista was like a sleeper. I don't think every team was really on him. Not a lot of teams saw him. He had a broken hamate early in the year, so he didn't play as much this spring. Cold weather kid in Illinois, but people love the swing, and there's a lot of hard contact in there. He might be slow. He and Slighton, the high school pitcher, they're going to be the slow development guys. They're going to spend next year at low A, and it might be a level a year. But I like that they're balanced out by Rose is going to move fast, and Rabe is going to move fast, and their 6th and 7th round pitchers in particular, Justin Legurnick from Clemson, huge armed lefty, Dylan Veig from Georgia, more of a command guy, they're sort of like changing speeds kind of guy. They'll move a little bit faster. So you see some immediate results from the draft and some help for the major league clubs sooner. Oh, but by the way, we have these 2 upside guys. Just pay no attention to them for a little while.
We have to hit one more break. When we come back, we'll dig into some of the more surprising drafts, including the class from the Philadelphia Phillies. Welcome back to Rates and Barrels. It felt like everything was coming up Philly in the last few days during All-Star Week, but the draft might be a little bit more puzzling. They didn't have a pick until 36 overall, which certainly adds a layer of difficulty. But were you a little surprised, given the state of where that organization is, like having a major league core that's getting older, that they didn't take a few more shots that would maybe give them the bigger long-term boost?
Yeah, there were a couple of picks that really threw me. And the rumor is their first pick was 36. And the rumor is the guy they wanted was Hunter Dietz, the lefty for Arkansas. And the Yankees took him at 35. So they got their pockets picked and had to pivot quickly. I don't know if that's true. I haven't confirmed that with Phillies. It would check out. Hunter Dietz would be very much a Phillies pick, Dave Dombrowski sort of pick. Like, God, they took a pitcher out of Arkansas last year, Gage Wood. Tyler Spangler didn't play all spring. He had a back injury that kept him out. Also, his team, there was a big hazing problem there. They were forced to forfeit, I believe, their first 5 games of the season. Like, there's just so much non-baseball stuff out there about this guy and very little baseball stuff that, like, if he plays and he's healthy this spring, he's a first rounder. That's where everybody came in on him coming out of the offseason, or going into last offseason. He did go to the combine. My understanding is he played there and he everything checked out. There's sort of that's your first pick, right? That's really risky. Oh, by the way, your top prospect is probably going to miss the entire season due to a back problem, Aiden Miller, who had to have surgery. And so, I mean, I know that's not what they're thinking, but of course there's a little part of my brain that's like, you decided to do that again, right? That's the, right? And then the guy they took next, who was on my board, Caden Bogenpaul from Missouri State, I saw him, and like, he is a beast. He is a physical monster. He moves really well for a big guy. He hits the ball about as hard as anybody did in Division I this year. But like, I saw him strike out against Delaware's Sunday starter. Like, it was 91 in the zone, and he's just whoosh. Like, there is a huge swing and miss issue there. You absolutely want to take that guy because you're taking a bet on the power and that we can improve the approach at some point. But again, look at their draft, right, as a whole. First guy doesn't play all spring. Second guy struggles with like mediocre stuff in the zone. And I just look on down their draft, and there's a couple guys like taking Will Gasparino in the 5th round, who's also got enormous power. It's the son of the Dodgers scouting director, transferred from Texas to UCLA this year, career high in homers, hits it extremely hard, actually a really good swing. I think he can play center, but there's swing and miss concerns. Now in the 5th round, that's awesome value. I do that all the time. But if I like your 5th and 7th round picks more than I like your 1st and 2nd and 3rd, that's probably not great ultimately. And as I looked further down, like, there wasn't, I'm just scrolling down to make sure I'm not forgetting anybody. Yeah, there's not a lot to sort of balance out the first couple of guys where there's just, you know, I don't see it unless Spangler gets healthy and you know, gets to go out and play a full healthy year next year. Maybe they can massively change Bogenpaul's swing decisions. It's a lot of if. It's if most of the way down. And it's hard because the Phillies, not only, as you're correct, I agree, they need some short-term help, but they don't have a lot to trade in their system right now. Forgive me if you guys have done kind of some of this trade deadline stuff, but I look at their farm system, I see a lot of their farm system just where I live, and they do not have a lot that would be, if they need to go get something significant, like they need 2 bats. My wife and I were talking, she's a big Phillies fan. And so we were driving home from the All-Star game last night, and we were talking about it. I'm like, they need multiple bats. Actually, she was saying that, and I was just echoing that. So, right. Right. There are multiple spots in their lineup where they're just getting no production right now. And, okay, what are you going to trade to go get a third baseman, a right fielder? They just don't have a lot. They've got guys who project to some kind of big league value, but they're not going to be the I don't know how to describe them, the headline grabber in a trade, the one that the other team says, yep, build a trade around that prospect. I don't know if they have that guy. Miller's hurt. Gage Wood is he's a good prospect, but I don't know if you saw the futures game, it's mostly fastball. It's a great fastball, but he's still kind of a work in progress.
I've heard floated the idea that they should sell Crawford.
Sell Crawford? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he would do so much better in a different organization if they can convince him to adjust his swing, because I've seen him every single year in pro ball, including this year, and it's the same stuff. I feel like we've talked about that before. I've talked to at least one of you guys. The whole swinging down thing. It's like, oh my God. Yeah. I mean, he can fly. He's strong. The body looks great. And yeah, actually, that's a great idea. I didn't think of that, but yes, I would absolutely. What would you think about the one, a reader of mine threw this out there? What about trading Painter? Are you selling low, or are you just saying we want to get something for now?
Locally in San Francisco, they're like, would you trade Elliot Ramos for Andrew Painter?
What do you think?
A compelling trade.
That's really interesting.
It's worth thinking about. I mean, the one thing that bothers me, though, is that Caleb Cotham is, I think, one of the better pitching coaches. And the Phillies have been on the front line of like, hey, everyone throws 3 fastballs. And then Painter comes up and it's like, I know in the minors he threw the cutter and the sinker. So I'd be worried that they've tried all the things I want to try.
That's a good point.
I want to get a little bit of the futures game in here. And something occurred to me. I was reading Joe Posnanski this morning and thinking about the game the All-Star game, the Major League All-Star game last night, and thinking about the futures game. And I'm thinking also a little bit about showcases. You watch these showcases, for the draft, and this is an exaggeration, but everyone looks good in one inning.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, we just had the American League come out with Titan after Titan after Titan and just, slay the beasts. And it was like, it didn't really feel like the National League had a chance to score. Like, they didn't even really think that they were going to. And everyone just looked amazing. And I'm looking at the futures game, and I know that 6 runs were scored and that it was a little bit more, 7 runs overall. But, I thought there are some pitchers in this that I don't like that much in this futures game, and they pitched well, and I think they're going to get hype. And for me, Carson Milbrandt, and I'm cheating a little bit because I have some stuff numbers from these guys, but like Carson Milbrandt, from my eye, didn't have good extension. That weird delivery he has, he doesn't get out in front. It's all side to side. It's a very strange delivery, and I didn't think that was great stuff. The kid Perry, who hit a batter, I wasn't sure about him.
Yep. I
have some doubts even about maybe about Anderson. I know it's great command, but I wasn't wild. Like my favorite pitcher, actually, I only really loved one was Wood, but Sloan was good too. So I'd say if I had to take 2 pitchers out of there, it was Gage Wood and Ryan Sloan. But talk to me about some of these guys, and if you were going to pick the nits, were there some pitchers where you're like, I don't know that if I like them as much as putting them in a futures game, or so on and so forth.
Oh yeah, the guy I did sort of pick on the writing, and it's not his fault because he's only 19 maybe, is Miguel Cime Jr., who throws 101, and JoJo Parker cheated a little bit on the fastball. It's okay, and he smoked it. He pulled it off the right field wall. Wow. Cime, and I've seen Cime twice in high school and then once this year in Wilmington, and the guy can't throw strikes. He's got a great arm. it's a high slot that he doesn't even repeat necessarily, but he doesn't get that ride up top either on the fastball. So it's like, it's legitimately 99 to 101, even when he's trying to start. And, everybody should be wearing a helmet, including people behind the plate, because it's an adventure. And he was the one guy where it's like, if we put this guy in the game, he's going to walk too many batters. We're going to have to go get him in the middle of the inning. It's not like there's nobody. Right.
I guess that's why I used him at the end.
Yes. It's not fair to the kid. That's the other thing. Like, he's not ready for this. And to your broader point, though, you're totally right. Everybody looks good in a showcase, right? They're all airing it out. I would much rather, if I were a GM or farm director or whatever, say, you're going to the Futures game. We want you to go. We're so happy for you. This is awesome. I know you're going to try to throw 100 on every pitch. Like, please don't. Please don't. Just
because Perry hit the guy, he was obviously trying to throw as hard as he could.
Yep. And Perry's just coming off Tommy John. I think he missed all of last year because of it.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine. Just pitch like this is the fourth inning of a regular start and go do your thing. And
how do you combat that
fine.
When you're looking at showcase kids, though? I mean, you'd rather see if they can turn a lineup over or see them pitch. Do you avoid showcases a little bit, or do you just
I like going to them, but I have stopped paying so much attention to velocity, particularly, where it's more like body, delivery. Does he seem to be throwing strikes, understanding? They're command will go down the more they're amping it up. And it's also valuable for, hey, if you go to see that hitter and, twice he comes up and he's facing 95 plus and he's totally unfazed by it, or he's, showing some semblance of pitch recognition, right? It's helpful because the hitters are seeing a quality of stuff they've almost never seen before. Whereas, like, I still remember seeing Tyler freaking Kolek hit 100 in a showcase, and I should have just run screaming at that point. And it was like, this guy's like 6'7", 250, and he's hitting 100. What's not to like? Oh, everything. As it turns out, everything is not to like.
Yeah, that's that one's an all-timer. I mean, Seth Hernandez looked great. Like Seth Hernandez,
he was my favorite guy of there because the changeup is sick.
He's the catnip of like what can go right with a high school arm, though, right? Like that. Like every time you see a guy like Seth Hernandez, you're like, maybe we should take that guy at 15, at 16. He was earlier than that, but that temptation has to be there every time you see a hit like that.
Yep. I pointed out.
Love the hamstrings. I love big old quads, dude.
Oh yeah. He's 20. He was 19 at the draft, which is fine. I don't care about that age so much for a high school pitcher. It's as good as it gets, right? But a reader was sort of asking in like a very reasonable question about sort of, how I tend to rate those guys a bit lower in the draft, but then, once they get a year or so in, I'm willing to kind of move them up appropriately. But sort of, what the thinking is, it's, look at how Hernandez is dominating right now. And at the time it was low A. Why isn't he, top 5 in the system? In 2022, I think I had the year right. That was Andrew Painter. Painter was first year out, goes to low A, absolutely dominated. It was way more fastball curveball at the time before they started with the slider, which I've just never really thought he's had the same feel for it. And he tore that league up. And then moved up after that. And it just seemed, I think he finished in Double A that year and he was just unstoppable. And then gets hurt, misses 2 years. Last year, not great. They're also working on multiple different pitches with him, so I can forgive some of that. But then he was in the big leagues and just not ready. So now we're 5 years in, and I still think there's a good future for him, but it's very much in question at this point, and it hasn't happened. I'm not saying that's the path for Hernandez, but that is such a close analog for me in elite high school pitcher. I think the first high school arm taken in his draft, and his first year was amazing, and then everything could go wrong, went wrong.
Yeah, I think the thing with Painter, too, that almost certainly fooled me into thinking it was all going to work great, and it still could, was that he got that taste of Double A and continued to dominate at Double A. Like the Double A level seems still critically important to me, small sample or not, to get up there and strike out a third of the batters he was facing and to walk nobody with the kind of stuff that he had. I thought the sky was the limit. At that point, I was ready to sign off on it. Like, here we go, Andrew Painter, future ace.
Same. I ran him up the board. I was like, okay, well, every scouting report I'm getting is amazing. The little limited data we had at the time was incredibly positive. And, and he did it in, Double A. Reading is a terrible place to pitch. It's a crazy home run. It's not a hitter's park, it's a home run park. And he went in there and just went right after guys. It's like, okay, this is, I don't know what else I'm looking for at this point. Well, apparently what I was looking for was crystal ball to know that the next 2 years he wasn't going to pitch. And, you can never predict like that a guy, right? Some guys have Tommy John, they're back in 12 months, and some guys it takes way longer like it did for him. But it's just, all I was even trying to say with that particular comparison to that reader was, this is why we all, myself included, need to pump the brakes on some of these young pitchers, because there are way too many paths for this to go wrong. And I will say, like, the Pirates I saw Hernandez's high A debut. Like, they're trying. They've got him super limited in pitch count, and he aired it out on Sunday. He was not airing it out when I saw him in high A. I'm assuming that's by some direction. He was only like 93 to 98 or something, which for him is actually like a notch down. And he was trying to throw all his secondary stuff and trying to throw it. Like, you could see, like, no, he's trying to pitch. I'm good with that because probably helped that Jersey Shore's lineup is not very good. He no-hit them for 5 innings, so it probably gave him a little level of comfort. But just, like, there's only so much you can do. Pirates, I think, are doing everything right. I really hope it all holds together, but there will always be that voice in the back of my head that's like, I don't know, maybe not. Like, even with Sloan, it's his second year. And so my level of confidence in him is already higher because he's gotten this far. Every full year they get in Pro Bowl without something going catastrophically wrong. Whether, I don't even know if that's evidence-based or if I'm just going off vibes here, but the vibes are better.
Especially it's one game. Like, I was just thinking something similar about, like, I wanted to ask you about if anybody stood out on the position side in the futures game. It's just one game. It's not even a full game to get like 2 at-bats maybe. So I ended up watching a little bit of vibes. Like, I was like, I loved DePaula's vibe. Like, he was so calm. Like, he was like, I'm not going to swing at those balls. Like, that was a ball. I'm not swinging at that. I'm not swinging at that. He struck out, but I was like, I don't know. He seemed somehow in the at bat I was watching, he seemed to be in charge and then he struck out. I was a little surprised, but I was just like, oh, the vibe here is that he's in command. And I got the similar vibe from Walker Jenkins. That was like, these are 2 guys that were, they were excited to be there and, but they were calm at the plate. I don't know. There's something I liked about that. It seemed like
I agree.
They had a good approach.
You can't look too much, right? Where it's most of these guys only got like 2 at bats. The only couple guys actually we had more.
The guy who's airing it out. Yeah.
Right. Most of these, we actually had more guys, I think, play the full game than we have in recent years, which was great. Like Ralphie Velasquez, I know, got 4 at bats. There were like 5 or 6 guys who actually played the entire game, which is great, especially since it's only 7 innings. But that I agree with you. Like, you're looking for little things like that. Like, I don't take away from anything different from seeing JoJo Parker's 2 at bats in that game. That I, versus what I had before. It doesn't change my valuation or scouting report or whatever. But I still could take note of first at bat, 8 pitches, tied for the longest at bat anybody had in the game. He was clearly going up there with an approach, not overexcited. Second at bat, guessed right, knew 101 was coming, and turned on it. Okay, great.
Yeah, that's pretty.
It's good stuff.
I like DeVries on the base pass too. Like, he was definitely aggressive. He was just trying to scoot.
Yep, I love seeing that. I do love seeing players who come, position players, right? For pitchers, it's easy. I just want to come and light up the radar gun or whatever. But for position players who show up and they're like, no, I'm going to play hard. I don't care. I'm going to knock you over, right? Yeah. I love seeing guys who come and I might only be here for an at bat or 2, but I'm going to take it seriously. Like, that's great. Right? Show me that you show that competitiveness. And most of these guys are pretty competitive and they'll, super nice in the clubhouse and on the field. They're like, I'm going to rip your neck off.
Is there some reason why they can't just move that game to Sunday night for the All-Star break, since there's no Sunday night baseball game? It would be the perfect open window,
today.
Or lead it into the home run derby.
Today
or
would
you
be
have to
great.
play it today.
Today would be good.
What is the reason for burying this thing on a Sunday morning against a full slate of regular season games?
During the draft. They were drafting. 11:30 they resume the draft in the 5th round, and then at noon they start the futures game. I'm like, where am I supposed to be? This is multiplicity. I do not understand. I just didn't look. I couldn't look.
We
at
need
the
some
draft
Keith
on my
clones.
phone. Yeah, I don't know. The first one's already flawed. They just get worse from here, don't they? Do not tell me you are trying to market the game's future stars, the young players in the sport, and then bury this when you've got the rosters were great. I thought that MLB did as good a job as it had done in years in terms of getting the best, the healthy guys at the top of the list were basically all in the game. Pretty much everybody we could have possibly hoped for was on the rosters. And then nobody saw it. My story went up and there were people in the comments like, wait, they played it already? That is a marketing problem. That is
those are people that
marketing.
care about those prospects.
Right. They're reading me. You probably would have watched the futures game, right?
Yeah.
I didn't even know what channel it was on. I do not get it. Noon Eastern, so 9 a.m. out your time. Are you kidding me? Like nobody's right. Okay, I would get up, but most people are not getting up at that hour. Even not that this is all about me, but just like personal complaint. Like I had to be at the ballpark at 9 a.m. for batting practice in the clubhouse and all that. Like that is pretty early on a Sunday, actually, especially when I was up late the night before writing up the first 4 rounds of the draft. So
you don't have to cover spring training the same way we do.
No, that's true. That is very true. I get to my spring training days do start a little, I could show up at 12:55 for the 1:00 minor league game. It's a little easier.
Be nice.
Yeah, it is. It is, actually. I can confirm. Yes. There's several breakfast places in the Phoenix area that are very grateful that I have time to come have a real
Matt's
breakfast.
Big Breakfast.
Matt's Big Breakfast, Crepe Bar, Hillside Spot, just on a rotation, 3 of them. Okay, where did I not go yesterday? Okay, let's go there today. Yes. But that's
Chilaquiles at Hillside Spot. I got that recommendation from you probably 10 years ago out of a spring training dining guide, and I think about those chilaquiles like once a week.
I have them. I twice, pretty much every trip I make to Arizona, I go there twice. And most of the servers there know me. I mean, I've been going there for 15 years now.
You don't have to even order it anymore.
No. Shout out to Kinley, who's there usually on the weekends, and he will see me and he goes, usual? I'm like, you know it.
Yeah, nice.
That's it. It's the whole conversation. Then we talk baseball.
Yeah. Great rapport. It's very well done. I've had one meal like that. I sat down at it was a casino restaurant at the Wynn, where someone in my group was recognized by the manager, and I was like, "What did you do last time you were here?" And it turned into offering things that were kind of like off menu, and it was a great meal. But I was like, I don't know how you reached that level here.
I don't want to know.
Lost a lot of money.
But thank you, because I feel like I'm reaping the benefits of some terrible things that happened previously.
Yeah, Derek dining out with the whale at the Wynn Casino.
Unbeknownst to me, when I walked in, that's exactly what happened. But Keith, we appreciate your time and your insight and all the great coverage you've been putting up at The Athletic. We'll look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yeah, my pleasure.
That is going to do it for this episode of Rates and Barrels. Be sure to join the Discord if you haven't done so already. We are back with you on Thursday.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to hit that subscribe or follow button so you never miss an episode. If you enjoyed it, drop us a like, leave a rating, or sound off in the comments. We'll see you next time.